welcome back to my channel. I am really grateful for the response that I received from my last video that toured my Paper Republic pocket journals. And today I want to show you a little bit about how I commonplace in my Commonplace book. I have a couple of Commonplace books, but this one is more of my research Commonplace book where I share things that I've learned through my reading or even through YouTube videos I've watched or documentaries. This is a new practice for me, but I really enjoy it because I don't always learn by reading. And another time, I'll show you my Commonplace book where I just keep quotes from what I've read. And that Commonplace book I use more like a encyclopedia of things that I found to be inspiring that I want to look back on. But today I'll show you exactly what I do with my Commonplace book for learning and keeping things that I found interesting. The journal that I'm using is my Paper Republic Grand Voyager XL. I got it in petrol blue, I believe it's called, and I just got my name embossed at the bottom. I chose this as part of a journal retreat that I went to in Sicily, and I got some inserts in here. This one is just the lined, lay flat insert, and I decided to choose this for the Commonplace book where I share all of my learning. And I think it's a lovely choice because it works really well with my fountain pens. You'll notice that I use red ink in this. I am just having a moment with my red ink lately. I purchased this Esterbrook Esty in Paris, and it has become my absolute favorite pen. I love it even more because it's attached to my first trip to Europe. And the stationery shop that I got it from was such a delightful stationery shop. There was a clerk there that made the experience even nicer. He helped me to pick out the ink that I got, and I ended up going home with this Antonio Vivaldi Diatramentis ink. I know I didn't say that right, but it's a beautiful shade of red, which you're going to see in a moment. And I've already made sure that I know how to purchase a refill when it's time because I just don't see myself wanting to run out of this and not be able to use this color again. It's a beautiful ruby red. So here's my first entry right here. I was compelled to start this particular book because I watched a YouTube video on the Murakami method of writing, and it's by Sam Moss, which I did add here to my Commonplace entry. He talked about Murakami's philosophy for writing, and really it's a wider philosophy on learning and noticing and journaling, and it really has shaped the way that I will continue to write and journal from this point forward. And also it took a lot of the pressure off. So I was compelled to make a whole entry on it because I don't want to forget what an impact it made on me. But also I've really wanted to read Murakami books. And this just made me want to read him even more. So basically, so I don't put my thoughts on anything here. I just write the facts down. So this is explaining the method, and a lot of it is described in the book. My thoughts on running, something along those lines. I don't remember the exact name. And then I found these pictures on the internet. This is the YouTube thumbnail that I just copied and printed, and then I used my Canon IV to print the pictures and paste them here. I've seen people commonplace different ways. I've recently seen the same layout and the same materials for a lot of the commonplace books that I've seen. This is my way of just kind of releasing the barrier or breaking the barrier to entry, excuse me, and coming up with one layout that I like that's easy. I usually print out 3 pictures, that I find on Google Images that represent what I'm talking about. And then I write around it. And like I said, I've been using my SD because it's my stationery obsession right now. And that's it. You'll see that I use that for just about every spread. This entry right here, I love because it comes from my experience at the stationery shop that I mentioned earlier in the video with the clerk. I did get a picture of him, which I'm so glad now that I've commonplaced this that I got this picture because it's just like a quintessential French stationery clerk image, in my opinion. And the store that I'm talking about in Paris is called Melody Graphique. It's the only store I knew of to carry Esterbrook's, and an Esterbrook pen is something that I resolved to gift myself when I reached a certain threshold um, in my creative life, and I did. And what better place to get it than Paris? So I wrote down my experience here because I didn't want to forget it, and I did the same thing. I printed out some pictures on my Canon Ivy, and I just wrote around it. And that's it for that entry. I loved learning about Murakami's writing routine. So then I moved on to C.S. Lewis's writing routine. And again, I printed pictures. I wrote down some of how his own schedule. This also comes from a YouTube video. So I usually put the source and I write down what I've learned. And I wrote a little bit about his writing group, which I love, that he gathered a group of friends and they just criticize each other's work. And they're just companions for each other's creative life, which I've always wanted. Here I commonplaced on a quote that really left an impression on me in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Same format. I watched a video by Moonlit Journals, and she talked about Dadu Shin, which is a illustrator that she really likes, and I felt compelled to look him up, find out what his illustrations are like. So I created a spread about who he is and pasted some of his illustrations here, which I love. I did the same thing for another illustrator that I found, Sirin Tada, and she is a Thai American artist based in New York that I just love her illustrations in children's books, and she has a way with color that I really appreciate. I also recently read an essay by Robert Louis Stevenson, so I wrote some of what he talked about on that essay. I printed a picture that my friend Haley sketched for her snail mail club, Posy Perdu, which I will link in the comments. And I'm really proud of this spread because I love the art that I included. It's just, this whole book is a homage to the time that I'm taking to enrich my intellectual and inner life. And it's been a real joy to spend the time creating. This one right here, I did at a coffee shop. I've always wanted to go to the Met Museum, and I have not gotten to yet, but I created a spread about its origins and some of the famous pieces that are there. One day I'll visit and I'll probably have a lot more to say. This one's about Virginia Woolf's writing routine. And then most recently, I watched The Scale of Time, which is an 11-minute short film on YouTube, but it is really good. It gives you a scale of how much time humans have been on Earth compared to when this planet even began, and the inception of this planet, which really puts in perspective where you fall on the timeline and just how precious and short our lives are. I really appreciated it, so I had to create an entry on it. And that so far concludes my entries. I'm going to keep going with it, but I've had a lot of fun creating this, and I have been asked to share it. I have shared a little bit on Substack, but those are all of my entries so far. I look forward to and plan on continuing to learn and create. And as I have more, I will share it with you guys. But for now, I'd love to hear some of the things that you commonplace about. And don't forget that commonplacing can be as easy or hard as you want it to be. It can be as creative or minimalist as you want. My first commonplace book I started maybe 6 years ago, and it is so bare bones. There are no images, just quotes, very randomized too. There wasn't very much of a structure, and it was just a way that I would keep quotes, and I still have it, and I love it. And now that I have a little bit more time for my creative life, I decided that I want to also make it a more creative and more visual experience. So I hope that this encourages you to keep your own. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Just put them in the comments and I'll respond as soon as I can. And I'll see you next time. I plan to give you a tour of my A4 size paper republic that I like to call my dreamer journal. If you've watched this far, thank you so much. I will see you guys next time, and I appreciate you being here.